hands up like that. There you go.
I tell you what.
There it is.
The on-air talent. I don't know.
No, lack thereof is what it is. It is 6:43. Time for Round the Car Guy.
The car guy.
Yes, he can.
Yes, he can.
He can inform you as to things you need to know about your vehicle that you might not know.
Might not know.
For example, we're talking about something that people might be experiencing this time of year.
A lot of people are experiencing this. And what I found interesting is this was a AAA number, 42% of the motorists cannot identify what this light is. And I wonder if we have the light to put up on graphics.
Bum, 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 bum.
Okay. Anyway.
It's a red light.
What we're talking about is the tire pressure monitor. Here we go. There we go. You can see the light in the kind of.
I think the words might give it away a little bit, but
you know, not all cars have the words.
Right, because my last car did not. It just had that little tire with the exclamation point.
Exactly. And
mine says right rear tire.
We're going to talk a little bit about that too. A lot of cars just have that icon. 42% of motorists cannot identify what that icon is. And what it is, it's the TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system light, and it indicates that there's either a low tire or there could be a failure in the system that monitors the tires.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things that I find interesting about the tire pressure monitoring system is, first off, it was mandated by the federal government. Any car sold in the United States after September of 2007 has to have that system on it.
Well, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of car it is, it has it. So if your car it was produced in 2007 or newer, it does have that system on it.
Was that fuel mileage? Is that the reason they did that?
That is exactly it. And people thought it was safety because the government didn't want you driving around on low tires, which is true. I mean, that does contribute to safety, but the main reason was fuel mileage.
Because a low tire can really deprive you of fuel mileage.
Huge. If you have one tire on your car that is 5 pounds low on air, which you can't even see that,
right?
It'll cost you 10% in fuel mileage.
It's that much drag.
10% for one tire, because instead of rolling now, that tire is kind of dragging along. It's low on air. It has more rolling resistance, and so the TPMS system helps you keep your tires properly inflated, which improves your fuel mileage. Then the car's safer because you're going down the road with the right amount of air in it, and of course the tires are going to last longer. And there's a lot of additional benefits, but the main reason that came out was for fuel mileage.
Okay. And that's what the device looks like.
This is what the device looks like. Early ones were a little different, but the majority of the cars are going to have a unit that looks like this. And really the only part that you can actually see is right here. This is what sticks out of the rim.
The stem.
The stem that you put the air in. But on the other side of that is this device. Something interesting, you can see the round part here on this device. Mm-hmm. Inside that is a battery.
Okay.
Oh, so when it wears out, you can just turn it over and then pop off the cap and then replace the battery.
That would be so awesome if you could.
Now look at the backside of it.
Yeah, that would be so awesome if you could do that. But no, that's not an option. That battery cannot be replaced.
Oh.
And the battery's job is as the wheel turns. Inside the sensor, the sensor gets excited,
right,
and it starts throwing a radio signal out that a receiver inside the car catches to determine what the tire pressure is, and that battery is what powers up this sensor. Typically, that battery will have about a 5 to 6 year lifespan.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with really how you drive your car, when you drive your car. I mean, it's just that's the lifespan of the battery. When that battery fails, you buy a sensor.
Now turn it around again and show the back side. Jackie asked what the substance was that was back there, because that's not a.
Well, I mean, is that the part that's attached to the wheel, or is that just kind of hanging out inside your tire?
It just hangs out. The way it hooks onto the wheel is it threads on there.
Okay.
It goes.
Right.
It goes through the wheel, and then this cap screws on and holds it in place, and then all you see is this part where you actually put the air in.
Is it possible to replace that without replacing the whole tire?
Yes. You have to take the wheel off the car,
right? And
we have to deflate and break the bead on the tire. But yeah, we can get them in and out without taking the tire off of the wheel.
How much does one of those things run?
It's going to vary from vehicle to vehicle. But typically, by the time you get it installed and then get everything relearned on it, you're going to be somewhere in the $120 to $175 range per sensor.
Jeez.
And
Your
is it,
car
like
has,
is it like a tire? Do you have to replace all four? Or can you just do one?
no,
at a time?
what I recommend to people is let's say we have a sensor that fails. Oftentimes it's because the battery failed,
Right.
but other things can go bad. If you've got one that has failed, let's put one sensor in.
Right.
A month later, if another sensor fails and another sensor fails, then we might want to look at buying a set of them.
Okay.
Right.
And something else to keep in mind, some cars, Toyota is one, they have a fifth sensor. There's a sensor in the spare tire. And so
So if it says low tire,
well, and Jackie brought up a good point. You said that yours is saying the left rear tire is low.
Which always happens this time of year when it gets really cold, and a lot of
Yeah.
times when it warms up, it'll be better. But so far, it hasn't gotten better. So then I'm like, okay, let's put some air in it.
Does that mean it hasn't got warm enough?
Well, I thought this last weekend when it was pretty warm. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, it's gonna. But it didn't, so I put some air in it, and the sensor is still yelling at me. So I'm like,
Well,
okay.
here's a couple of things to that. First off, and it's unfortunate in our industry, but some repair places don't have the right equipment to reset these, and they should be reset each time your tires are rotated.
Oh.
Really?
Because the computer, when your tires are put on your car, and these they call them relearned or trained. We go in with the device and we tell the computer, hey, this sensor is in the left rear, this sensor is in the right front, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if somebody has rotated your tires and hasn't relearned or retrained your sensor, now your car is telling you your left rear tire is low. That tire could be on the left front, could be on the right front.
oh, just for identification purposes. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
because the computer doesn't know
Got it.
when the tires are rotated or moved around. The computer doesn't know that the tire changed positions. So it comes on, it tells you your left rear tire's low,
Right.
and you're back there and you're putting air in this left rear and you're
I
putting air
am.
in this left rear. That tire might not even be on the left rear if when they
Okay.
were rotated or
Good
brakes done
point.
or something like that, if it wasn't relearned. So whenever you have your tires rotated, I would ask them, did you retrain my sensors? Did you relearn my sensors? 'Cause-
Never even crossed my mind. Wow.
Exactly.
And you do start to see these things happen this time of year when it gets cold, right?
Absolutely, and we blame the weather guy for that, of
Yeah.
course.
Well, of course. Yeah.
As much as possible.
Or the lack of nitrogen in your tires.
We'll touch on that. And that is why you see that this time of year, Jason, because as the temperatures get cold, the molecules of air shrink up. And so what was 35 pounds of air at 6 p.m. when you came home from work, the next morning could be 30 pounds of air or 29 pounds of air because it doesn't lose the air, but the molecules shrink up, so it takes up less space and there's low pressure. And then, of course, it's going to turn the light on because it sees a low tire. And then, as you've experienced in the past, you start driving the car and the temperature builds up and the pressure, that air gets warm, so the pressure builds up in the tire and it turns the light off. Does that mean that the tire wasn't low when the light was on? The answer to that is no, it was low. That's why it turned the light on. Mm-hmm. And so you were driving on a low tire, you were wasting gas, you were prematurely wearing tire out until the light eventually went off. And of course, the fix for that, and this is one reason that it became popular in the automotive world, is to inflate your tires with nitrogen. And the reason is nitrogen gas isn't affected by temperature the way air is. So if we put 35 pounds of nitrogen gas in your tire, then it doesn't matter if it's 0 degrees or 110 degrees, you've got 35 pounds of nitrogen. Now, with that said, that doesn't fix a defect in the system. So if you've got a tire pressure light on, simply changing over to nitrogen isn't maybe going to turn it off unless it's on because a tire is low. So in your case where yours is on, it's been on for quite a while, unless there's a tire that's been low for quite a while, nitrogen may or may not fix that. So it's always a good idea to get the system tested and figure out why it's on.
All right.
How often does that happen? Is there any way of telling, like, oh, I've had my car for so many miles, that battery might be starting to wear out?
We can tell it again with the correct test equipment. Whether or not, because what we do is we have a tool while the car's sitting there. We have a tool that we put over the stem, and we tell it to start generating a signal. Mm-hmm. And then we can go into the computer and we can measure and see if a signal is being sent and if it's receiving that signal. But again, there's probably people out there driving around that it's like an automotive battery. You know, I've seen them fail at 2 years, and I've seen them in cars where they were 12 years old and they were still working. So, you know, but typically, and even the manufacturer will say somewhere between 5 and 6 years of age, and the batteries will get weak, and you know, they just need to be replaced.
All right, so if you have a low tire, need to make a pit stop, where do they go, Ron?
They can go to Westside Auto Pros. They can find us at westsideautopros.com, and we can hook them up with nitrogen. We can fix their tire pressure
check
monitor.
out your gauge?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you want more information on the nitrogen, there's a great website out there. It's getnitrogen.org. And it talks about all the features and benefits. You can put your zip code in. It'll tell you where you can go get nitrogen in your tires to keep the pesky light from coming on intermittently in the mornings is usually when you see that.
The cold temperatures. Thank
That's
you,
right.
sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Perfect as always. It is 6:54. Stick around. When we come back, gifts for weird people.